From The National, this is Trending Middle East. I'm Yasmin Al-Taji. It's Thursday, July 3rd. Here are today's headlines. Iran's president has approved a law suspending cooperation with the UN's nuclear watchdog. That's according to a state media report on Wednesday. Iran's parliament passed the law ending cooperation with the International Atomic Energy Agency, or IAEA, earlier, but it needed to be signed off by President Masoud Pezeshkian to take effect. The National's Mina Aldroubi explains how we got here and what's next.
Iran has always threatened to suspend and to stop cooperating with the IAEA, and has long accused it of siding with Western states and Israel. And it recently has said that it's provided justification for the Israeli strikes on its nuclear sites. Now, the law, what it stipulates is that any future inspections of Iran's nuclear sites by the IAEA needs to be approved by Tehran's Supreme National Security Council.
Tehran has long claimed its nuclear program is for peaceful civilian purposes, but Western powers suspect Iran is seeking to build a weapon. Tensions came to a head last month when Israel launched airstrikes on Iran in an effort to cripple its nuclear infrastructure. The U.S. then entered the conflict, dropping bunker-buster bombs on 3 Iranian nuclear sites. U.S. President Donald Trump has claimed the strikes on Fordo, one of the nuclear sites, quote, completely and totally obliterated, unquote, Iran's nuclear program. But U.S. officials have also acknowledged it will take time to form a complete assessment.
Bullseye after bullseye after bullseye, it all blew up, everybody saw it. Let me tell you, it was beyond obliteration.
Another important thing is the fact that Iran has been very secretive about its nuclear facilities and its capabilities. The IAEA really is one of the maybe the only agency in the world that knows exactly where these sites are. It was actually a couple of experts that told me this. This is all speculation, but it could be that through the IAEA, Israel was able to locate some of these nuclear facilities from Iran. Now, from the IAEA side, we've reached out to them, and they've told us that they are aware of these reports and this development, but the agency is actually awaiting further official information from Iran to know what to do next.
Fordo was the stronghold of Iran's nuclear energy program and came to be seen as a symbol of defiance by the ruling regime against the international community, as well as a bargaining chip in diplomacy. Iran's 2015 nuclear deal with world powers, negotiated under U.S. President Barack Obama, allowed Iran to enrich uranium to an amount enough to fuel a nuclear power plant, but far below what's required to build a weapon. But in 2018, Trump, during his first term, unilaterally withdrew Washington from the deal.
It's important to note that Iran has done this before, where it has limited IAEA inspections in the past as a pressure tactic during nuclear negotiations with the West. Although right now, Tehran has denied that there's any immediate plans to resume talks with the US, especially after the 12-day Iran-Israel war, and especially after the US decided to strike Iran's 3 most important nuclear sites.
U.S. President Donald Trump said that Israel has taken a significant step towards finalizing a ceasefire in Gaza. The agreement is for a 60-day pause in fighting, during which Trump said on Truth Social, quote, "We will work with all parties to end the war," unquote. Here's the National's Hamza Hendawi with more from Cairo.
What sources have told us is that what is being offered is a 60-day ceasefire, the release of 10 living hostages held by Hamas, along with the remains of half the hostages who died while in captivity in Gaza. The proposed Gaza deal also provides for the commencement of negotiations between Israel and Hamas on a full Israeli withdrawal from Gaza and a formal end of the war.
Trump said he'll discuss the situations in Gaza and Iran in a White House meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, set to take place next week. Meanwhile, Hamas officials have said the group is engaging positively with mediators, but that the fate of a Gaza ceasefire lies in talks between the U.S. and Israel.
It is, however, difficult to see that Hamas and Israel will make the necessary concessions to agree on a Gaza ceasefire deal. For example, Israel insists on the total dismantlement of the political and military capabilities of Hamas, wants to maintain a security role in Gaza after the end of the war. Hamas official on Wednesday shut down the wave of optimism created by President Trump over the prospects of reaching a Gaza ceasefire deal. Mahmoud Taha, who is with the Hamas office in Beirut, told The National that Washington is not serious about ending the Gaza war and accused it of bearing direct responsibility for the conflict by supporting, quote, massacres, unquote, in the territory. Analysts, however, believe that a great deal will be riding on the meeting scheduled for Monday in Washington between President Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu. Mr. Trump has already said that he is going to be very firm with Mr. Netanyahu as he pursues an end to the Gaza war.
The Kurdistan Workers Party, or PKK, could begin disarming within days. That's according to the spokesman of Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan's Justice and Development Party. His remarks were some of the clearest yet from Ankara on the process of disbanding the PKK. The National's Lizzie Porter reports.
So we've got a situation now where the Turkish government is framing this as a process for a terror-free Turkey and sort of saying that this is the end of 40 years of terrorist attacks and sacrifices by the military to fight this group. And on the other hand, you have pro-Kurdish politicians in Turkey who are not members of the PKK but are pro-Kurdish politicians who are represented in the parliament saying, you know, this needs to come in line with more freedoms and rights for Kurds in Turkey. So at the moment, there is a process of setting up a commission in the parliament to amend some of the country's laws to sort of provide a legal framework for this whole process.
The PKK is designated a terrorist organization by Turkey, the EU, and the US. Its leader, Abdullah Öcalan, called on its members in February to lay down their arms and for the group to be dissolved. His call came after a months-long process initiated by an ally of President Erdogan to offer greater freedom for Öcalan in exchange for the PKK's dissolution. The PKK agreed to heed Öcalan's call and disband in May, but the process of laying down arms and deciding the fate of its fighters is complex.
And this process is going quite slowly. And I think one of the reasons why the PKK has indicated that it will start its disarming process this week is because it wants to sort of throw the ball into Turkey's court and say, look, we're starting to disarm. Now you need to push ahead and make progress on amendments to the laws and ensure that we get something in return for this, or to ensure our future as we give up our weapons.
That's all for this morning's headlines. You can get these stories and follow live updates at our site. Yasmin Al-Taji, The National.